Honest J. Nowak. Oh yeah.
A pleasure to meet y'all at last, and welcome back to Honest J. Nowak. So, today, I'd like to go ahead and talk about a couple things about planet layers. Now, planets themselves, they're very good from the outside. And the way that we see all of our planets, and I'm actually going to count Pluto this time around because it's just silly the way they think that it's a planet, but then all of a sudden they want to go back to it not being a planet. But that's just preposterousness. That's just so a dumb idea, really, because regardless of how small or large a planet may be, it's certainly got a lot of stuff going on the inside. Because, for one, our planet itself happens to have a very tiny layer on the top known as the crust. And then eventually there's the mantle. Then there's the inner core and outer core. Of course, to get to the very center of the Earth itself would mean that you'd have to go down thousands of miles below the crust, the mantle, and both of the cores. Now, aside from all of that, that's pretty much happening. Any of our other planets that you look at them today, whether they just be the more terrestrial type planets or the gas giants, they do happen to have a lot of different layerings. Now, in terms of, well, Jupiter, for example, of course, being that it's, well, a gas giant, it's not exactly segmented into multiple layers. But of course, being that, well, it does have itself a layer of, well, cloudiness along with a red spot nearby. And the fact that it happens to have tons of hurricanes and ginormous amounts of lightning at the same time. A gas giant like that certainly has itself different layers of gases in it. That's pretty much for sure. And in terms of the other gas giants, Saturn, Uranus, Jupiter, Neptune, they all happen to have the same amount. But they tend to slightly differ depending on their size, for one. Though Saturn's, well, for one, that Saturn's got all the rings around it. But in truth, it seems that the gas giants themselves, in general, they happen to have rings of all of them, really. But this is all just dependent on how much is orbiting around the planet. Saturn's rings are obviously there, mostly because there are enormous amounts of ice, stone, rock, debris, and astronomical type scum that happens to be circling around the planet. Whereas with Uranus, Neptune, and even Jupiter, well, they both got rings, but it turns out that they're little to no visibility because there's not much orbiting around them. Jupiter's gravitational pull is definitely very strong, and that could explain why there's little to no visible rings there. Uranus and Neptune, though, their rings are like slightly more visible, but once again, this is pretty much dependent on that kind of recurring factor. Gravitational pull and the size of the planets in general. But in terms of our terrestrial planets where they happen to be segmented, that's another story. A whole another story. But the sun, it's also just a ginormous gas ball, mostly composed of helium. Which is silly enough, but, I mean, for our terrestrial planets out there, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, they do happen to have layers of their own crusts, mantles, and cores, pretty much. But I can say for sure that, well, all these other things about it is just a bit overwhelming for me, so I'm just going to go on ahead and move on here. So if you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side.